Moving on to the next point. The next point is what I'm very proud of and also very excited about, the first panel discussion about the topic KNX Secure and KNX Security. Ways to implement what we've written down in the KNX Secure Checklist, the instruments that I just presented in the previous discussion. And for that, it's also nice to hear how everything is actually implemented by the representatives of the various KNX national groups. Maybe not me introducing myself. Maybe it would be the best to understand who are you from your own mouths. Maybe starting with Phil, who had to get up very early in the morning to participate in this meeting. Could you just say some words? Who is Phil?
Okay. Well, good morning, gentlemen. Phil, I'm the vice president of the KNX National USA Association. I am a consultant in the controls industry, naturally being KNX, one of the protocols I'm recommending and actually applying. And I've been doing this for the last 28 years.
All right. So that's Phil. Maybe moving on now to...
Yeah. So Europe.
Moving on to the... All right. Europe. I'm in Europe. Moving on to Thailand. Thailand is currently 6 hours ahead of me at the moment. Who is representing Thailand?
Okay, my name is Isaac. I'm from Taiwan, but now we are based in Thailand. Okay, and actually we are really new to KNX. We started to do KNX projects since about 5 years ago. So we are still learning. Okay, nice to meet you guys.
All right, thank you, Isaac. Moving on to the more eastern country, which is Korea. Daniel, who are you?
Hi guys, nice to meet you. I'm Daniel Lee, who is in charge of the KNX National Group Korea as a president. So we are very working hard to extend our KNX business and KNX market to develop in Korea for a long time.
All right, good. So we have a nice, let's say, pool of participants here on the panel. We have a consultant, we have a system integrator, and we have somebody also working for a major manufacturer in Korea. So I think that this can be a quite nice discussion. Addressing maybe the first question then to the one who's actually busy with implementing KNX in houses and buildings. Isaac, you are working as a system integrator when you're not representing KNX Thailand. In your opinion, and because this is also the KNX Secure Day, what do you think? And be honest with us, do you consider KNX a secure technology?
From our point of view, actually, it's quite secure because it's quite complicated, but it's actually in Thailand, it's not a standard yet. So from the product certification, okay, and the communication protocol, from those point of view, from project point of view, we think it's really not extremely secure, but to compare with other technology, we think it's relatively secure, not only for the building we do or the house we did. Okay,
maybe just like what you said in regards to KNX is, in your opinion, not secure, or respectively not as secure as it should be. Where do you see room for improvement for the security with KNX?
Because we do project mainly, so we have to cooperate with a lot of different we call subcontractors, especially for like big building projects. So we cannot do all the installation by ourselves. So mainly what we do the design. We provide the drawing, layout, everything, and we send it to the designer or the main contractor. But we could not be able to supervision all the installations. Okay, so what actually we've been discussing with Christian, we're trying to work with universities, try to work with designers, trying to let them understand that KNX it's a stable, it's relatively reliable system, but you need to have some standards. But those basic knowledge actually not quite popular for those people. Every time we're talking about automation system, the only thing came into their mind is like conventional system. So even they get the detailed drawing and the cablings, but they'll still do the wiring as conventional way. So when we get on site, it's quite difficult to fix everything, because
all right,
even tech.
Yeah. Go on.
So even KNX, we have a lot of tools to do the tracing, to do the bug fixing, but sometimes some situations really difficult. So we think the basic knowledge and understanding of KNX, which actually quite important to deploy or to have more people understand this technology is quite important.
Maybe getting the opinion on what you just said, maybe giving the ball to Phil right now, also because you've been working with KNX. As Isaac said, in his opinion, KNX as such is a secure technology, but the big problem here is, or let's say the weak link, is a lack of knowledge here. What do you say about that? What do you think about that?
I couldn't underline that more. Here in the U.S. is very similar because standards, unfortunately, are the standards that have been for the last 40 years. We're talking about low voltage. We're talking about intelligent devices that communicate. So that being said, intelligent devices need to be secure, and there are measures that need to be put in place. And that starts right in the specification stage, as Isaac pointed out. So you try to work with designers, architects, engineers, to get those secure measures in the specification. And naturally, KNX will be listed amongst anybody else that can be actually very secure. The other thing I'd like to point out is there is a checklist, a KNX Secure Checklist. If you go on site, it's really good. It gets into the technical aspects and connections, all of those nice things, but it also gets into applications. Are you in a data center room? What are you actually, how is it physically secured? What's the application? And, what is the technology? So it's comprehensive. So I think Isaac mentioned before, it goes into array maybe, or it goes into, an area where it's not secure when people don't understand it and misapply it. So I couldn't underline it more.
All right. Maybe handing then over to Daniel is because KNX has been in Korea for quite some time. Maybe saying that KNX is the standard in Korea is maybe one step too far, but nevertheless, KNX is a very established technology in Korea. We just had several points mentioned here in terms of security. KNX as such is very secure, but the weak link is to be found with the specifications and with the human as such. Also, Daniel, you're running a training center. How much is the topic of security actually taking that into consideration?
Normally, actually, in Korea, we usually focus on the KNX business for the high-end residentials or some condominium or hotel, and some part such as lighting and solar shading control for commercial building in general. But actually, the cybersecurity is also one of the big issue in Korea. So that's the reason we usually introduce or during training or during some seminar fair or etc. actually to show more the issued item with the back data to facilitate their understanding why these security issues should be also considered during the installation of the KNX system in local. But normally, actually, most of design usually handled by architect or M&Es or some designers, but they don't know exactly what's the cybersecurity or network system. So that's the reason we need to make a more the easy to understand materials to communicate with them to facilitate their understanding. And then actually, normally, actually, for the higher level for system integrator or others, they are usually well understood how to, the design, how to configure, how to install, how to maintain, etc. But from the beginnings, actually, we have to give more easy documentation to the project owner or investor because they have a right to decide the project budget. So that's the reason we have make a different kind of the concept approach or dedicated materials to give a more better understanding for them with our checklist or etc. So we can make a different voice to them to understand why they need this one. Normally for private sectors include high-end residential or condominium or apartment. Actually there's the less chance to inside by some strangers to hacking the system or etc. Because there's so many, some private, security systems or some steps to walking around full days. But the actually hotel side, actually, there's so many, the newcomer and guests who cannot be recognized by hotel staffs, etc. In that case, actually, we usually apply some secure system more easily than the general private sector.
As you just said, so like I understand it that you all kind of agree that we with KNX, of course, we do a fantastic job. Of course, we educate like our system integrators. Daniel actually mentioned that specifically, that like from the KNX point of view, like we are actually like giving like all the details. Before I also presented the KNX Secure Checklist, which is also part of the checklist as such that Phil mentioned. Would you all say, so like you all pretty much said that the part where the security actually is lacking is not necessarily on the part of the KNX side, but on the part of the architects, of the specifiers, of like where people say, okay, this technology we need, and this is like where you don't see yourself, respectively, KNX in control. Maybe just throwing it in the round, the first to answer gets the ball to speak. What is your what is your take? What do you think does KNX have to do? What do we all have to do in order to get rid of this security threat actually here?
In my understanding is that our checklist or others, the materials they usually dedicate for the KNX dedicated engineers or KNX user group or some KNX partners. Normally, we need to make some more general documentation to release to some architect or some the M&Es or electricians or the end users that include the project owner or project coordinator, etc. They kind of some more various approaches are needed to facilitate the understanding why this is.
But how do you reach those people? Because like I said before, KNX is secure and the whole security discussion has been going on for quite some time. And yet we still haven't apparently reached the architect. What is the, let's say, specific activity that we have to do to reach maybe like people like Phil? Phil, you have been working with KNX now and you are like this kind of person that we want to reach. So let's just imagine you wouldn't know about KNX. What would we have to do in order to reach you?
Well, you'd have to convince me, obviously, that it's better than what I'm doing today. And one of the things we have to be aware of is know who you're speaking with. If I'm speaking with an electrician, for example, electrical installer, who we want to reach, because these are the guys also that are building homes and getting in the residential market. These guys want to know that they can rely on it. Okay, it's reliable, but they also know that it's different than when they wire. It's low voltage. It's not, line voltage anymore. So they have to get that big change. And that change, if you're talking to me, you got to convince me that the low voltage is going to be as reliable as my switching in line voltage. I mean, very simple, but you get that. Because they also see that you can get business taken away from them. So all of a sudden, if it's 24 volt, wow, anybody can run that line. You don't need to be an electrician. But you certainly need to be an electrician to, transform that voltage and make sure that it's, in the right circuit, etc. So there's always that convincing you have to mention to them. So it takes time. I mean, here in the US, this is a day-by-day thing, getting the convincing. But if I'm talking to an end user, then I want to convince them if they are big on security. So if it's a data center, naturally, they're going to be big time on security. This is where it's a perfect market for it. And things like that. So know your end user, and then take care of those anxieties or those fears that they have, because I'm sure KNX can solve it. So it's not, bulletproof. Nothing's bulletproof with data security. But if you apply the right measures, depending on what type of system you have in topology, if you have a token protocol or if you have IP, big difference on security standards. So you got to make sure you cover all those levels. That checklist really is good for that.
Right. Isaac, I know that I've seen your face on many like agendas, and I know that you talk a lot with architects, with designers, with consultants. Whenever there's a show and there's a conference going on, I know that you are also there, pretty much sharing the good word about KNX and also secure technologies. Would you agree with everything that Phil said, or would you say like, no, with us it's a bit different? Just to also give like a bit of a different view, not necessarily to say that Phil is wrong.
Actually, I 100% agree what Phil just mentioned, because I think you guys also met a lot of designers. And the only thing designer might concern is, does it look good? Does it look nice? Okay, and they don't know how it works. They don't know how it works. Okay, so I think the most challenging part is, once you get everything down, you help user a lot. User will be happy with that. But if something fail, it fail whole house, it fail whole building. That's the challenging part. And nowadays, all the properties or the buildings we do is getting more and more smart. From general point of views, they would think a smart building is like that. Okay, we have a lot of internet, we have a lot of Wi-Fi. From general point of view, they think it's a smart building. But actually, it's also the true part we have to face. There are more and more network happening in the properties we do. When there's more networks happening, that means we have to interact with those networks. Okay, so there will be first issue, there will be security issue. Okay, second is stability issue. Third is the connection issue. Because once the network fail, people can use their phone. But if the automation fail, they cannot turn on lights, they cannot turn on air cons, there will be a big issue. So from our point of view, we're trying to communicate with the designers, and we try and communicate with the ME subcontractor to let them understand the low voltage system actually is totally different from conventional system. Okay, and there are a few things that have to be reminded. Is like network connection, power supply. It's totally different. So I think it takes time to educate those subcontractors. So solution we have so far is we do their job for them. We do the drawing, we do the layout, we do the riser design, and we send supervisor on site, tell them, okay, you just follow what we told you. Okay, I think they can avoid a lot of mistakes. So, but we don't have choice, because to see the whole system running well, everybody's happy, but not much people would like to invest their time to learn how to make it work and how to make it correct. And to educate KNX system, it's different from like to promote one brand. For example, at the event, it's the event under June, or an event under Electron. So the people come here for the brand. But when I'm talking about KNX, it's a technology. And most of designers, they don't care about technology. They only care about the design and how it looks. And to learn about technology, it takes time. But to learn about this brand, I only can go there 5 minutes to see if it's beautiful, the material is good or not, then it's done. So I think that's the challenging part, that we're trying to promote this new technology and to let people understand that this is something really benefit your properties or benefit your buildings. Because if
Maybe
you want to do the
Daniel here, right?
Yeah.
Because like you mentioned before, like that the designer is like very focused on a very beautiful design and also a good solution, respectively a good system. I would say, Daniel, you have that available, so you have very beautiful devices and you use KNX as such. You therefore kind of already meet what is required according to ISAC. Are you also facing the same problems in a, let's say, more developed country? Or would you say that you have to like fight against other resistances in order to let the people understand that KNX is a secure technology?
Normally, actually, the designer side or the interior designer side, architect side, they just don't focus on the the space design, interior design to make a more better atmosphere on some space and the building or etc. But normally, actually, we usually focus on the introducing them regarding the cyber security or security to keep their information or personal things, etc. But most of the end users or dedicated people, include the stakeholders, include the architect, designer, etc. They just focus on the outside attack, not inside. Usually, actually, they just worrying about some hacker is trying to attack from the internet line or etc. from the outside or using by wireless LAN or etc. So this reason, actually, I just focus on the IP secure in Korea in general to secure some remote access or etc. from the outside. But internally, they just less focus on the applying or implement the data secure in general until now in Korea. But anyways, we are still working together with so many stakeholders to, give more understanding for them why this is needed in general. So try to make some small session to train them, to introduce them, and then we also sharing the many kind of newsletters to have the translation in local language and then share it by every month, or sometimes we can share the more the new trend, why this is a very prevailing in Europe or other country. So we need to focus on this one. Actually, that's the reason we can make a more better common, the playground to operate the whole system under the secure condition. So now it's 50-50. Most of PPT is well understood, but some of PPT is even though they understood, they cannot choose due to some project budget.
Okay, good. Thank you very much for sharing this, everybody. Our panel is reaching its end. Nevertheless, I would still like to ask everybody again here. Now you have the possibility to talk to the entire KNX community, from system integrator, manufacturer, and also KNX Association as such. So I would like to hear what your wishes are in terms of security and KNX for not only maybe your own market, but also in general. Maybe Phil, what do you expect how this market needs to change?
Well, I would expect the organization, and I've also voiced it, where we need to have, a lot of alliances out there. And we got a lot of alliances going on, within the protocols. And we're getting into wireless, and wireless is also very susceptible to data theft or just infringement in there. And I think my ask is that you maintain those global organizations. You go in and try to do the best you can, so that when you're aligning and connecting with some type of platform, could be Matter, could be whatever. And then we have to make sure those security standards we understand, but by collaborating, you also learn. So I think in that I would say, and secondly, in the field, it gets misapplied. I've seen time and time again misapplication, meaning on if they're taking a token network and they're leaving it open in a case where they're just connecting it on a level of IP to the internet, they can just get right in. So we need to look at the IP side, which is what Daniel was saying, with a firewall, that kind of security. And then when we get into the building with the operating technology, whether we're dealing with a wireless LAN on the customer's network or anything else. But I think the KNX organization has done well. We can always do better. So I'll always ask to do better. But you guys, please listen also to the feedback from guys like Daniel and Isaac in the field. This is important.
Right. Isaac, what's your take on that? What do you expect the whole world to do in terms of to create a more secure world for smart homes and smart buildings?
Actually, a couple months ago, I had a discussion with Christian about, I was asking something about like backname and KNX comparison, because I read some documents from USA. I found that actually the organization or companies or enterprise in USA are doing pretty good things. They put the backname into like a building standard. Okay, we call like smart building or green building. They put it into a standard. So if you want to apply some like we call EIA, the license to construction, you have to follow some green building policies. And I think this is actually a very good approach, because green building or smart building, it's growing. I mean, the idea is growing in Asia or Southeast Asia area, but the government actually, they are a little bit slower. So there's no policy or regulation which can apply to follow up the technology or the market trend. So if it's possible, I think KNX organization could help to provide some standard or provide some idea that we can talk to government or some departments to have them look at it and consider maybe KNX could be a part of the regulation or part of options for the future buildings or the future properties, and if they can apply.
Right. Okay. Good. Understood. Maybe the final word then from Daniel. What is your expectation for the future and for KNX?
Yeah, normally actually KNX is well established under the open, secure global standard and very prevailing technology from the 31 years old. But actually, in my understanding, actually the KNX can be reading technology with a whole market, but in my understanding is that KNX cannot fulfill the whole world and whole things. So as you know that there's so many another global standard like BACnet or ZigBee or Matters or etc. Any kind of things could be integrated as a system, and actually now is another system. Actually, we should be supplied the solution and service to the market, because that's the real needs from the market. Also end users, they don't know, they don't want to understand the full technology, but they only thinking about the real side, not the back side, include the technology. That's the reason we need to more close collaboration with another global standard. I think in my understanding, that's the reason why IP release or that kind of thing is at this time is started to make a more common IP network with some standardized, the cyber security platform or etc. to secure everything. That kind of approach is very important. And then I think that our KNX association should be, the release more frequently regarding that kind of, some issues to share with the national group to, release on each countries. And then also some national group has their own very dedicated, nice materials. And then maybe if it's possible, actually you can collect it and then translate it in English and then sharing to the whole of the other national group to translate in local to share it. So that kind of action is very needed.
Right. Okay. You said it, or you all said it actually. What I think is most important in this world, where we are facing not only one technology but multiple technologies. It's good that we all collaborate, because only once we collaborate we can also make sure that the certain level of security is also guaranteed. Daniel, you said it. We are also already actually active with this whole discussion with a project called IP Bliss. If you have a look maybe on Google or also on the KNX website, you know that we are currently cooperating with the other technologies to not only bring KNX as technology forward, but to promote also building technologies as such, as well as implementing a guaranteed minimum level of security. At this point, I would like to thank everybody very much. Phil in the US, Isaac in Thailand, and Daniel in Korea for taking the time early in the morning, late in the evening, for contributing to this actually very, very, very interesting discussion that we had. I guess that we could continue to talk about this for hours. If some of the audience would have any questions to any of the speakers, feel free just to write me an email. I will then channel that email to one of the speakers. And we're, of course, free to discuss more about this topic. Feel free to start a discussion on social media. We would be very happy about this. Again, thank you very much to all the panelists, and we shall move on to the next day. And I wish everything and all the best to all the participants. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.